fine. I was going to say one more thing, which I also hear a lot of now that I'm painting more, is that people say, "Well, I don't have any blank walls," and I always ask the question, "But do you have the right things on your walls?"
Mhm.
Because you can fill your walls with generic something from IKEA, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's sending a negative message to you, then is it the right thing for you?
Everything we surround ourselves with is affecting our subconscious. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? And like how does that show up in real life?
And then our brain is filtering out what's important and what's not important, but it's still reaching our brain. So it's in there in your subconscious in one way or another. For example, if you're hanging on to something that's from a relative that maybe holds that relative holds a negative emotion for you. You had a bad relationship, they didn't treat you very well, and if you see it sitting there every day when you walk in, your body, without you even realizing it, is going to be feeling that emotion. I think it's a give and take. It's a lot like, I like to describe it a lot, your space is a lot like an affirmation. So you could say, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, but if you don't believe it in your body, actually what you're going to be hearing is, I'm not.
It's really the truth. When you're able to acknowledge the truth of what you would love, basically, then that's going to be something that's going to be in alignment that would then draw in that more in your life or be able to access it more. But if it's just something you're saying just because it's a wish, then it's not the same thing. Welcome back to the Healing You Method podcast. I'm Gloria.
And I'm Gail.
And this is a space where we explore healing through relationship with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us.
And this includes something we don't always think about as a relationship. And that's the space that we live in and we work in.
Yes, the environment that's quietly holding us every single day.
Quietly holding us or influencing us, and influencing us in ways that we might not be aware of yet.
Yeah, so today's conversation, it opens that up in such a powerful and accessible way. We're joined by Maggie Mentor, an artist, author, and intuitive feng shui consultant who transforms homes and offices into living, breathing 3D vision boards, spaces intentionally designed to help people achieve their goals. Having lived and worked in multiple cities and countries in all kinds of spaces and circumstances, Maggie brings a very unique perspective to her work. Her 20 years as a humanitarian worker took her around the world, placing her alongside people navigating some of life's most challenging circumstances. And these experiences sharpened not only her understanding of spaces, but it gave her a deep, practiced empathy that now sits at the heart of her consulting approach.
Yes. And what we have found is really appreciating about Maggie's work is that it's not about following rules. It's really about learning to trust your own intuition and apply your intuition in your own space.
Yeah, so Maggie, welcome. We're really
Thank
glad that you're
you.
here.
It's great to be here. And just one small correction, my last name is pronounced Minor.
Oh, Minor, thank you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like you have a minor problem. That's what one of my friends used to say.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, fun.
But thank you for the lovely introduction.
Yeah, you're
So
welcome.
thank you, Maggie. So I was just, if we can begin, I'm just really curious about when you say that everything we surround ourselves with is affecting our subconscious. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? And like how does that show up in real life?
Sure. So studies have shown that our when we look around, and some people are more prone to this than others. We're absorbing all that we see and all that we smell and all that we hear. And then our brain is filtering out what's important and what's not important, but it's still reaching our brain. So it's in there in your subconscious in one way or another. So
Mm,
if you have, for example, if I've seen this, I've had this happen myself, where you're hanging on to something that's from a relative that maybe holds that relative holds a negative emotion for you. You had a bad relationship, they didn't treat you very well, and if you see it sitting there every day when you walk in, your body, without you even realizing it, is going to be feeling that emotion.
Yeah,
mm,
so what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you're sharing is that it's really about our consciousness. It's just not what we
Hmm.
consciously notice, but it's what our nervous system or our unconscious even is taking in. That our nervous system, that amygdala that is scanning our environment all the time, it's moment by moment reading the room.
yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm. So, do you notice certain patterns with people? Like, for example, say someone feels really stuck or overwhelmed. Um, is there something that you would see in their spaces?
I would say generally they'll have something in their spaces that is giving off that negative vibe,
Mhm.
that's reminding them of a negative situation in their lives. And I also always want just give a caveat that your space is a reflection of who you are inside. So you have to do the somatic work on your body. You can't just change the environment. It's really a give and take. There's a balance
Mhm.
there. Um, but as you were saying, if they feel chaos inside of them, they're going to have a chaos frequency. And generally, what I see is is the negative thing, or their space is very cluttered,
Mm, right.
and they'll have things in odd places, so that they're having to go around things to get what they want, and it's really very
Mm.
symbolic of usually what's going on in their lives.
Oh, that's so
Mm.
interesting. Yeah, they might not be easy access to get to something. Yeah. Oh, that's
Hmm.
so interesting. So it really sounds like um, when you say the work of in your body that that's getting more to the root. Would that be fair to say of what's happening for them and then being reflected in their spaces?
I think it's a give and take. It's a lot like I like to describe it a lot. Your space is a lot like an affirmation. So you could say, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, but if you don't believe it in your body, actually what you're going to be hearing is, I'm not.
Oh, yeah,
So,
I love
so
that.
yeah, so I will always recommend that people change their spaces at the speed at which they're doing the internal work,
Hmm.
because then it
Hmm.
becomes a supportive uh, tool for them.
Hmm.
Because if you do it too quickly, it can be a shock to their system.
Yeah, it
Right.
can overwhelm them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so with the affirmations, I know there are many people that use what they call affirmations, and what I'm hearing you clarify is it's really the truth. When you're able to acknowledge the truth of what you would love, basically, then
Mhm.
that's going to be something that's going to be in alignment that would then draw in that more in your life or be able to access it more. But if it's just
Mhm.
something you're saying just because it's a wish, then it's not the same thing.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
And you
great
can still
distinction.
have, yeah, and you can still have those. I mean, I have my vision board is full of all the things I want, but I don't necessarily integrate those into my home space, because
Mhm.
I want to be in tune with my nervous system. But I want to
Yeah,
remind myself of what the end goal is.
yeah, keep a wide vision to it. I like that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to go back to your own journey for a moment. Was
Hmm.
there a specific experience that really shaped how you see this work that you're about?
Well, there was a real moment of genesis for this work.
Mm.
So I I'm also a sculptor and a painter, and I had a public studio in Asheville's River Art District for about 4 years. And I would watch people come in, and these were people who, at least outwardly, were of means. And they would see a piece of art, they would fall in love, and then they would talk themselves out of it. And there was a whole list. They would always say the same things. There's like three options. And essentially what they weren't to me, what I was hearing was, I don't value what's the messages that I'm getting in my space. I'm just making do with what other people, with what is already there, or what I think I should do. And the other component of that was worthiness. I'm not worth spending this money to bring something that's going to bring me joy into my space.
Wow.
Um,
Gosh, that seems so relatable. Like when having those three different kind of statements, I can reflect back and know myself doing those kinds of things. When you're drawn to something, but then you override it, that you're not worthy of it, and you can't spend the money because you're not worthy of it. And
yeah.
God, yeah, that's a great example. Sorry, I might have interrupted you there.
No, it's fine. I was going to say one more thing, which I also hear a lot of now that I'm painting more, is that people say, "Well, I don't have any blank walls," and I always ask the question, "But do you have the right things on your walls?" Because you can fill your walls with generic something from IKEA, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's sending a negative message to you, then is it the right thing for you?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that you are tuning into recognizing how many of us humans have a disconnection between how they actually feel and what they allow in their life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love this conversation. It's so great. And so I was wondering about do you yourself get an internal sense of something happening when you hear people do that? Is your body affected by hearing these kinds of statements that you've heard, or seeing people, not necessarily have a home that you're hearing what they want?
Oh yeah, very much so. I'm very much one of those people that can feel that has the sixth sense.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel their body tense up.
Mm-hmm.
I might have a different perspective on it. Sometimes it's when I'm talking to them about my art, and maybe I'm even trying to sell them some art. So then I get frustrated because I'm trying to sell, but I'm hearing all their list of insecurities, and then I go down the rabbit hole of wanting to help them with their insecurities, which is again why I started doing this work. But to answer your question, basic, yes, I do feel it in my body when people say this. I feel it in my body when I walk into someone's space, and I can feel how out of alignment they are, the space is. Because when I meet a person, and when I spend time with a person, there's always two versions of the person that I'm interacting with. There's the true version of the person, and then there's the version that they're projecting onto the world. And I have that gift where I see both.
Ah.
So it's always interesting to see how close they are. And their home is generally a good parameter of that. And it hurts my heart when they're really out of alignment.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's so interesting, and that's something that I really appreciate in reading the book that you have written, which we can be talking about later. But I really heard like you have the idea of feng shui, but you don't stick to strict rules.
Yeah. So I don't subscribe to traditional Chinese feng shui, which has uses maps and directions, and um, I gravitate towards what's practical and what feels right to people, because it's pretty much like any coaching or I've never been comfortable with telling people how they should be,
Mm.
because the most important thing for me is how people feel about themselves.
Hmm.
So I'm there to support people to to empower them to trust their intuition. And that's really what I hope is clear in the book, and definitely what I do during my one-on-one sessions with people.
Yeah, really, not having someone else come in and tell them, okay, this is how you could decorate the space, or this is how I see your space.
Mhm.
But you're inviting people to only look to themselves and tune into themselves and
Mhm.
see what feels true for them.
Yes, yes. And I find Chinese, the traditional feng shui is very much the other end of that. Yeah.
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 So it's really a different orientation altogether. And what I love that you do is you're accompanying them. So you're like a surrogate prefrontal cortex that you're walking alongside of them as they begin to recognize things that perhaps they had never seen before
Hmm.
because of their conditioning.
Hmm.
And so then they can really come back to developing more self-trust. And then there's a liberation and freedom that can come from that.
Yeah. And there's something about hearing, um, just hearing another person kind of make little hints about what's going on with you. I was
Mm.
actually having this conversation yesterday with someone. I was a writer for a long time. I did professional writing with as a humanitarian worker. And one of the best writers I ever worked with said, you always need it. Everyone needs an editor. And so I'm not immune either. I would love someone to come and do the same thing I do for people for
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, I was wondering, I'm really curious, Maggie, what do you do to help people to begin to reconnect with that intuition, especially if you have a sense and you have reinforcement from what you see that they've been disconnected from it?
Mhm. Oh, well, the best starting point for me is always the first step that I go through with people, and that is figuring out what your goals are. Because it's a good barometer for seeing how in alignment they are with where they think they want to go.
Mm.
Because people's goals generally aren't really what they want, what they say at least. There's generally a lot of shoulds going on there. Um, and so asking a lot of exploratory, playful questions, and then asking a lot of whys. So once we kind of
Mm.
work through that and get to what they actually want, I think that that's a real foundation for them to then be like, oh, and they start to trust themselves more. So yeah, it sets the foundation for then when we go through the objects.
Ah.
Hmm. So if we bring that into an experience that our listeners can try out, um, isn't there one simple practice that people could begin with this week? You have the tool, the line of vision and placement. Maybe you could walk us through that.
Yeah, that's a great one. Um, so I would say, yeah, we don't have time to go through the goals, but what thing you can do is you can identify an emotion that you want more in your life. So joy, love, um, and find pick a place where that you spend a lot of your day. For a lot of us, it's the office. So when you look up from your computer, what are you looking at? Because generally that's the place where people rest their eyes and they're getting a lot of subconscious input from that. So look at what's there and just allow yourself to feel what you're feeling from what's there. And if it doesn't match the emotion that you want, replace it with something that does, and then see how that feels.
Hmm.
Mm. That
Yeah.
seems like really simple and
Mhm.
accessible to do that.
Yeah, I love doing it because as you said that, I'm looking around my space and I'm like, oh, I really like what I've got going here.
Ah, cool.
Because I have a horse of my horse of my dreams, her big picture there, and my grandkids are there, and my vision board, and my tree of life. It's like those are the things that inspire me, and
Mm.
so It's nice feedback. I also recognize that if I look off to the side, there's a lot of clutter.
There's
So it's like being really honest and transparent. It's like, okay, I think maybe this is a room I could spend some time in.
Yeah. So, Maggie, is there a reason why, like, do you have some neurobiology reasons that why where we rest our eyes, it's so significant?
Hmm.
Or
it
maybe
goes
it's just
back to
your
what I
own
was saying
experience.
at the beginning, is that we're absorbing it, but
Mm.
our mind is somewhere else.
Mm.
So it's one of the most unconscious areas.
Ah.
So when I work with people, generally we go through what's conscious and what's unconscious in a room. So maybe what's on your computer is more conscious. So
Yeah.
we can change. We can also make changes to what's on the computer. Um, but
Mm.
the subconscious is generally is able to kind of shift the mood a little bit quicker, I think.
Mm.
People struggle with the conscious things a little bit more with changing them, because
Of
then
course.
they're in the analytical mind. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, I wonder too, even taking my example of like, oh, I love what I'm looking at. And it's like, well, but there is again your pile of clutter over here that I'm not really paying attention to, but it doesn't mean my body's not, which then that
Right.
could begin to reflect in my life and in my reality. So I love that
So
too.
Yeah.
my challenge for you is to just take at least one piece of the clutter out of your office and put it somewhere that makes sense and see how you
Right.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just going to put a plug in for Maggie's book. She does offer a really nice way that you can begin to go just one room at a time and really blocking off time to do this. And I'm like, okay. Guess she gave me my first assignment.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so if you are looking at your room and then you find that something you're looking at doesn't feel supportive, do you have some tips about what you should do with the first step, next step?
I think it depends on what the thing is.
Mm.
If it's something that you have an emotional attachment that you feel like you can't get rid of, like a family heirloom, um, I would say put it in another room. Um, and then there's a couple of I actually have a worksheet that I let people go through so that they can talk about um, they can really start to digest how they feel about the piece. But I actually recommend the Kondo method. Marie Kondo. She has you take the piece and you hold it to you. And you thank you for its service to you, and then you make a discard plan. So either you take it to Goodwill or you give it to someone. And I find that I do this myself. When I drop things off at Goodwill, I thank it several times. I thank it when I'm handing it over, and I thank it when I'm driving away.
Mm.
That was so interesting. Thank you for sharing that and reading your book, which is a great book with so many, like, really broken down in lots of steps and so many powerful, reflective questions. But I just thought that that's so powerful about removing things that bring up a negative emotion before adding something new. And but I found seeing myself with a lot of memory kinds of things that I really didn't know why I was keeping them other than I knew that they belonged to family. And I think it's going to take me a while to go through each object and look at them. But I have done before with just putting them away. I hadn't thought about it in the way that you said as a step. But when I look at it now, after it's been away for probably about 3 years, um, I don't have quite as much of a strong attachment, especially when there's been life that's happened in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
I was just going to say, I completely understand. I have a storage room, a storage facility because I'm renting right now, that has several antiques that I've gone back and forth with keeping.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
And so, I'm not immune to that either. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I can imagine that's a lot of our conditioning too. It's like, well, this
yeah.
is your great 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 grandma's, or it's like, and
Yes,
now it's your
exactly.
turn to hang on to it and decide who gives it next. And it's
Yeah.
like, so when you actually go through this process, what I love that you're saying is you're inviting people to develop more conscious awareness, to really begin to attend with intention. And in doing so, then it actually creates a new space when they move through this that allows them to begin to experience something really different. And that sounds magical.
Yeah, and another component to that is another question you can ask yourself is, can I make this my own? So I have my
Mhm.
great great grandmother's writing desk, which is beautiful, but it's I write on my computer. So I have one of the plans that I have for it is I'd actually like to turn it into a bar.
Oh, fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So, I just
Yeah.
I invite
So,
people to also be creative.
Yeah, to make it your own.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it sounds like, yeah, if I may, it sounds like what you see is how much and how deep people underestimate the emotional charge that objects can hold for them.
mm,
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Um,
talk about this in the book, but I believe that we formed emotional attachments to objects early on, um, like a tool. Like we would have an emotional attachment to a tool, and that's what allowed us to survive.
mhm.
And that's why
mm,
we name our cars, and that's why, so yeah, I
yeah.
think it's drastically underestimated.
Yeah. So that really touches a deeper thread than maybe most people consider. But then this work really is about recognizing our own identities, really. How do we identify ourselves if we have these attachments like that? And not to make them bad or wrong, but to be honest with ourselves about them, to begin to recognize them, and even to recognize how they may be influencing us. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like so a lot of what can happen is people really start to recognize their own power, that it sounds like, their own choice, their really having their environment match their truth and match their identity more of who they want to be or who they're becoming. Would
Hmm.
that be something?
Oh, 100%. One of the big taglines I like to use when I work with people is you have more control than you think.
Mm,
Because you might not have control at work, but you have control when you come home, most of the time, over, what you cook for dinner or what you watch on television, and if you don't have control over that, because, people with families and who are in not healthy relationships, what you could have control over is what you put on your bedside table to remind you to stay strong, or, a little photograph that inspires you in some way. Like Tina Turner, when she was going through, her relationship, her abusive relationship, she actually kept a little, like statue. It was like a statue or a picture or something of Buddha
Mm.
by her all the time, and that was her inspiration.
mm, that's amazing.
Sorry, that makes me teary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love how you connected it to what do you have control in your life? Because yes, I mean, at work, often we don't have any choice
Hmm.
or control in, what happens in the world or what happens with others, but we do have control over what we choose to eat, over how we want to have our space and have that space reflect us and how we want to, coming back
Hmm.
to what you started with, how we want to feel. What is the emotion that we want here
Mm.
in our lives? Yeah.
Yeah, 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 and you can do it with lots of money, and you can do it with not a lot of money. It's um that, yeah, you have more control than you think. You just
Maybe, maybe speak to some
look.
people that feel like they're on a shoestring budget. What are some of the
Mhm.
ways that they could
Yeah.
still get to take action?
Um, I was, this might be controversial, but I think that there's something to be said for minimalism, when you're in that place. Um, I think that you got to give yourself the room to feel that you can create. Like you are in control of creating what comes next. And when you're creating, you have to have a void of some sort. Like you can't,
Mm,
um, like when you're doing emotional work, you have to clear in order to allow the positive emotions come up. So I think spaces are very much that way too. Um, and then I would say you can get really great posters for a couple of dollars. Just go to, when I was young, I used to go to yard sales um, and online. I mean, there's a lot of things on Amazon now that are pretty reasonable. Just
Yeah.
be mindful of what you're choosing, that it feels abundant to you.
mm,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to hear. I'm imagining that as you're working with people, because you have such a different, um, the way that you accompany them is not your traditional way with feng shui, that you really develop a rapport, kind of a companionship kind of role that you really get to know them. I'm wondering if you could share an experience of what kind of transformation have you seen happen for a person when they've moved through this process of really reclaiming their home or their space.
I think that the biggest kind of general transformation I've seen is that people are clearing their, this is very obvious. They're clearing their spaces and reminders of what they're taking away. So I worked with and what they want to create. So one of the people that I worked with, she ended up ripping out the wall in between her kitchen and her living room so that then she could have dinner parties.
Hmm.
So because she was putting away some family trauma and she was creating a new life. And
mm,
we did have an interaction after a couple months afterwards, and she was just really happy that now she had all these new people in her life because she
mm.
had the space to invite them over.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when I hear you speak about and and I can hear your enthusiasm and your love for what the work that you do, but I'm really getting the message that it isn't really about design and what the trends are, the designers say. It's really about relationship and how we allow that into our lives and starting with the relationship with ourselves.
Hmm.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
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 So, what is it that you, if you're willing to share, what is it that you're noticing in your life since you have begun this journey? What's that been like for you?
Well, I mean, I'll be really honest. I went through a period where I wasn't practicing my own preach.
Hmm.
I went through a real period of depression, and it was interesting to see that my environment got more cluttered.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I was holding on to things, and I moved, and I got rid of everything in my apartment.
Mhm.
I gave it away. All my friends were shocked. I gave it away, and I ended up. I'm now in a space that is quite minimalistic. Um, and what I literally just had a bed and my dresser, and then I remember waking up one morning and looking over and being like, oh my God, because it's a huge room. I manifested a studio for my art.
Ah.
So I turned the entire side of the other side of the bedroom into a studio that overlooks the
Mm.
woods and a creek. So, that's a good example, personal example of creating the space and then seeing what kind of comes out of it.
Mm.
So then I created a whole entire art collection, a painting collection of 10 paintings
Mm.
because of that.
No, it opened
Yeah.
up the space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something
Yeah.
new could actually begin to emerge from you. Yeah. I
Yes.
love also how you're naming that it truly is a practice. What are the practices that we follow through with, that we actually own in our lives, that we apply in our lives? And what's the fruit that we receive from that? Because we all practice things all the time. But what are we practicing? And
Mhm.
really noticing what happens then.
Yeah. And Gloria, as you say that, it brings up a reminder for me. What what is when you're practicing, because right, we're always practicing all the time, is it in alignment with what we want, or what we value in our life, what our vision is, and aligned with our goals, as Maggie started out with her first step, right, Maggie? That first step was identifying your goals.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always keep a list of my goals, and
Mhm.
I actually have a page for my goals, and then I list out the emotions on the other side.
Oh,
Mm.
beautiful. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like with mine, I call them choices. And in my choices, I write descriptively. So the emotions embodied in it.
Oh,
And then I practice embodying them each day as I walk my labyrinth. So that's a practice I love.
oh, I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do something similar. I meditate and I practice. Yeah.
Yeah, I love hearing this.
Yeah. It's
So
beautiful.
so then our space, whichever space we're embodying then, becomes a reflection of who we truly are vibrationally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can outgrow spaces too,
No
which I
kidding.
think
Yeah.
was what yeah, which is what happened with my where I used to live. Yeah,
And
and
then
I can even
allowing
feel myself outgrow the space I'm in to a certain extent, you know?
bigger
So it's always
studio. I don't
going.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, have fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so Maggie, this has been such a meaningful conversation. And
Hmm.
uh, before we close, we'd love for you to share where can people find you and follow your work and connect with you if they're feeling called. And I want to mention again your book that is really quite an amazing and helpful tool if anybody's interested in exploring what Maggie's been sharing with us today.
Yeah. Well, you can go to MaggieMinerDesigns.com. And I'm just assuming it'll be in the show notes. And there you can find out about my book. There's a link to my book, and I have a lot of other resources to help you understand what I do and how I can help if possible.
Yeah. So if
Thank
you
you.
have one thing to leave our listeners with today, I just invite you to take a moment and just see
Mhm.
what arrives.
What's coming into my mind is listen to your heart.
Hmm.
Like when you're trying to make these decisions, it's always listen to your heart. It'll always tell you the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That resonates with us so
Yeah.
incredibly much. Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is beautiful.
So if
And
this oops,
oh,
sorry.
sorry, Gloria, you go ahead.
Well, if this conversation resonates with our listeners, then we invite you to share it with someone else who might need it.
And take a moment today to notice your space and notice what it's reflecting
Mm.
and what it might be inviting you into, or perhaps what you would choose to change that invitation to be.
Yeah.
And
Next week, we're going to come back. We're going to have a very special, it's a recap episode where we're going to be weaving together insights from our most recent 3 conversations.
and we're going to be looking at our conversations with Saloua La Hulu, sorry. Dipti, Kathari, Jan, and our Maggie that we've just been with today. It's will be a space where we'll be integrating what we've learned and heard, reflecting, and bring these ideas into your life.
Yes, because as we've covered today, awareness is just the beginning. And what matters is how we live it.
Yeah, so true, how we live it. And as always, all healing is relational.
We'll see you next time.